In just over a year, I was able to brute force my way from $40 per haircut to $100 per haircut. And I went from being a high schooler who was insecure about his business to literally building a business that did over 6 figures the year that I graduated from high school. And I literally did this just by outworking everybody. There's no simple formula or anything like that. Because once you realize that in today's world, there's literally no competition, it's gonna change your whole perspective. Look, there's literally nothing special about me at all. Like, I literally got here just by outworking everybody. If you give 100% to a goal, you're gonna realize there's literally no competition. In this video, I'm gonna break down for you guys some key lessons that I learned on why you can just outwork anybody and brute force your way to your goals, and why there is never any competition as long as you actually give it 100%. Bet you guys are gonna start to realize that 99% of people aren't even in the game. They're literally just going through the motions, repeating the same day, every single day, just going through what makes them comfortable. Nobody is really out here chasing growth. And so once you become intentional with what you do, and once you start moving with a purpose and start being more intentional within your life, you're gonna chase growth. You're gonna start seeing crazy growth. Like, there's literally no secret. Again, I just outworked everybody. But people end up plateauing after seeing just a little bit of growth because they're either afraid to go up, they don't have structure, or they just have too much comfort. The thing is, right, most people confuse being busy and showing up every day and just going through the motions with actually being intentional. And growth doesn't come from going through the motions. Growth comes from really being intentional. When you wake up and you're trying to grow your business, you should have a clear focus in mind, like a clear purpose of what you're trying to get done. I remember when I was just going through the motions, posting the same content every day and not really getting different results. And that's because ultimately I didn't have a structure. I had to start giving myself a main focus each week and just really overall like trying to learn something new every day. That's why they always go back to get 1% better every single day. Because it's like, I'm cutting every day, I'm showing up every day, I'm posting every day, but where is this really getting me? Is my content improving every single day, or am I having weeks where I'm just completely stagnant? Because the number one thing I learned to chase is growth. Once you start chasing growth, everything else will fall into place. I feel like there's this big misconception that people start saying that once you start chasing growth, that equals that you're chasing money. And a lot of people will say that you're just after money. And so those people always say that it was never about money. Yes, I had monetary goals, I had income goals, but the biggest thing that led to me increasing my income was just me chasing growth. Because if you're really truly dedicated to getting 1% better in what you do every single day, and you're actually dedicated to growing your business and all you care about is growth, it's literally inevitable that you're gonna make more money. So it's like, think to yourself, what did you learn this week? What is your main focus right now? What are you trying to improve in your business, and what areas need work? The way you know that you're not perfect is that you're not yet at your goal, which is okay. Business is a lot of trial and error, and this is a system that we're trying to perfect. What goal are you aiming for short term this month, and what is your long-term goal in the next year, 2 and 3 and 4 years? And if you don't know the answer to these things, you're not serious about your growth. And that's the hard reality that you have to realize. If you don't think about growth every day, you're not serious about it. Some people get a little bit of success and then I just kind of see them get comfortable. And I was the same way. My first time raising prices past like 50, 60 a cut, I got super comfortable and I just didn't care about growth anymore. I thought I was him. I got a big ego and I just kind of stopped putting in work. Like, I wasn't even focused on growing every day anymore. But I'll say it again and again and again. Comfort is the worst possible killer. Because deep down you know you want to push for more, but you just have like this fear of that you don't want to risk what you've already built. You don't want to risk the stability of your current situation to push for the actual ultimate dream outcome. You just end up settling for less, because growth means friction. And once people start feeling that friction, when they start to have to grow, it makes them uncomfortable. And so instead of going up and getting that friction with the growth, they'd rather just go back to where they're comfortable and just chill where they're at. And again, deep down, 99% of people want more, but once you get comfortable at a certain level, it's really hard to justify to yourself taking that leap, risking that stability and what you feel super comfortable with. And that's how you end up never achieving those long-term goals, because ultimately if you're chasing growth over comfort, it's going to do nothing for you. If you're scared to fail, scared to commit, and you're just too worried to take that next step and push to the next level without realizing that you might have to sacrifice some things short-term for a long-term gain, you're never going to get anywhere. And it's just going to be the same cycle that repeats itself over and over and over. And the biggest thing of intentional living is setting goals with a time frame. You'd be surprised how many times I ask people what their goals are, and they might not even have a goal. But for the ones that do have a specific goal, they don't have a time frame on it, and so it's not really even a goal. When you put a time frame on a goal, I find it makes the goal so much more realistic and attainable once you tell yourself that you're going to achieve a certain outcome within a certain amount of time. Every day in the back of your mind, you know that you promised yourself that you'd achieve this outcome by this amount of time. And if I go back through my old notes of when I was first coming as a barber, I always gave myself a time frame for these goals because I knew I had promised myself that I'd follow through with this desired outcome in this time frame. And when I caught myself doing things that didn't align with that goal and that weren't pushing the needle one step closer to that goal, it was like a disappointment to myself because I knew that I had promised myself a certain outcome, and instead of making the days count, I had just wasted another day of me not getting better. And I only had so many to move towards that goal. I remember writing down a ton of goals, and every time I wrote down goals and gave myself a time frame on them, I always ended up surpassing them. And I didn't even realize when I hit them because I was just so focused on the growth. It was really like having that time frame was just a ticking time bomb, reminding myself every day to keep pushing, keep getting better. Real success comes from short-term sacrifices tied to a long-term vision. Right? If you make the hard choices every single day, that might not be the most fun. It's eventually gonna long-term push you towards your goal. And it really just depends on what you want more. I know everybody says, how bad do you want it? But that's honestly like the truth. There were so many times in high school where I felt like I was missing out because I would be cutting up all these clients that are going out to parties and going to have fun. And I would be stuck at the shop until 9, 10, 11 p.m. at night just making content. And as I would count on my money at the end of the day and just sit there reflecting to myself and be like, damn, is this really worth, all this sacrifice? Like I'm missing out on my years of being 18, 19 years old. Is it really worth what I'm building? Because here's the thing, deep down, most people want to be exceptional, right? Everybody wants to be exceptional, but people are just too afraid to fail. Like people have such a big fear of failure that they won't even try, right? Because everybody wants to do what? You're probably a barber, you're probably charging even like $40, $50 to the average person, especially if you're younger and like you're in high school, college. To the average person, people want to do what you do. They want to be in your position. They want to be able to post on social media. They want to be able to make money, run their own business. But the difference between you and them is that you took that leap of faith and you did what everybody else was afraid to do. Like let's say when I first decided that I would scale my barber business to 100 a cut, I gave myself what I thought was a realistic time frame of 4 years. But as I started making progress and being intentional, I quickly changed that to 1 year. And then I actually ended up hitting that goal in less than a year. Because discipline is making the hard choice today for the long-term gain tomorrow, or the day after, or months and months down the road. Because you have to constantly say no. The biggest skill that I've learned is saying no. Back then when I was in high school, I would always say no when I was invited to go out because I just had more important things. So I knew that by saying no to something that was not getting me one step closer to my goal, by taking a step away from something that would put me a step back, I was indirectly taking a step towards my goal. And it wasn't like I was purposely doing it. I just had to put my goal over anything else, right? Let's say after the shop, I did want to go out and have fun. Most of the time I would either have to hit the gym, study for school and do assignments, or edit videos, and those just took priority over what I wanted to do. And even if I would have gone to have fun, I wouldn't have been able to enjoy it to its fullest extent because deep down in the back of my mind, I have that anxiety that I'm not working towards my goals and I didn't do what I promised myself I would. Literally today, right now, as I'm recording this video, I told myself that I wanted to go eat out because I was just too lazy to cook at home. But it's getting late. I have this video and another video to film, and I just had to make that sacrifice and say no to eating out, right? Because that wasn't gonna move the needle towards my goal. And I say moving the needle because you really have to think, does this action move the needle towards my goal? Or does it really not do anything at all? Is it just going through the motions? Success is literally boring. It's not hype. It's not like a sprint. It's structure. It's just compounding decisions, right? You choose the hard decision at the start of the day. First you wake up and then you have a choice, right? It's just choices every day, and these choices compound. Because it's like you can wake up, you can either hit the alarm or you can get up, right? And this is like cliche stuff that everybody says, but it's like you can wake up, you can either hit the snooze button or you can get up. Then when you get up, you can eat a healthy breakfast or you can eat, a pre-workout meal and maybe go to the gym if that's what you do in the morning. And just these decisions continue to stack up during the day, right? Do you edit the content or do you go out to eat lunch, right? Are you going with the other barbers on break to smoke or to go out to eat or to just do something that's gonna distract you and put you behind? Or are you gonna separate yourself and do something that actually brings you towards the goal? Because once you build a winning system within business, it's just a matter of time. Most of the people that are successful that you're comparing yourself to subconsciously and that you wanna be like, they've just been doing the work for longer, right? once they found a winning system, they've just been in the game getting 1% better every day for longer than you. So you just have to give it time. But if you can't be consistent, that's the first biggest issue. Once you master the variable of consistency and you're able to put in inputs every day, then it's just a matter of tweaking the system to figure out what works. People who are ahead of you are just either more consistent or they started earlier. And once you realize that anything on earth is achievable. Because most people are not out here learning something new every day. Most people are not out here actively trying to grow every day. They're just maintaining the same spot over and over, but they're not really growing. Most people aren't even really trying. And that's why, again, I say there's no competition. Because truthfully, it's a lot easier for someone to stay stuck than to risk being uncomfortable. Especially remembering that uncomfortable stage of growth to get to, it took you to a certain point, right? Maybe you're charging 15 bucks and you grinded your ass off to get to $50 a cut, but now you don't really want to push anything past that because you don't want to risk being in that uncomfortable stage again and kind of feel like you're risking everything that you build. So people procrastinate taking steps toward their goals and getting themselves uncomfortable because they're afraid of what might happen. And so again, they end up being paralyzed by fear and they're so scared to take that step to get the ball rolling again that they literally don't even try. And so they end up being stuck in the same spot month after month after month. And ultimately, you want to have a long-term vision with checkpoints along the way, right? This means thinking where you're going to be at 1 year, 2 years, 3 years from now. And it doesn't have to be a perfect path. It's going to unfold step by step as you walk it. But the biggest thing you can do is set short-term checkpoints, right? Ask yourself, where do you want to be at in 90 days? What new things do you want to accomplish this week and next week? And what is going to be the main focus within improving your business? And over time, you'll start to see yourself past people you used to look up to because you're just being more intentional than them and you're just getting better every day while they're just showing up. And again, this is why I say there's no competition. The final thing I'm gonna leave you guys with is, personally, I just started again saying no to everything that was not aligned with my goal, because the biggest skill, the highest leverage skill, the highest leverage task I could possibly do is learning to say no, because all these no's compound. All the times you deny yourself a short-term gratification, a short-term satisfaction, because it's going to take away from your goal, this all compounds. And so by saying no, you're actually saying yes to yourself, right? By avoiding something that's not going to move the needle, it compounds and it compounds and it compounds. And every time you say no and give time to your goal instead of anything else, it's actually bringing you one step closer. You just really have to ask yourself, right? What do you want better? Do you want to be living this vision of where you want to be at long term? Or do you just want to keep going by every single day and saying yes to every opportunity to distract yourself that comes your way because you're too afraid to miss out? Bro, most people aren't even in the game. So if you actually play the game seriously, we're going to win. These are truly some of the biggest mindset shifts that helped me go from that barber back in high school to where I'm at right now, scaling 2 companies and building the #1 barber scaling program in the entire industry at just 19 years old. And I'm gonna keep practicing what I preach and keep choosing my goals over anything else. Because once you start moving with intentionality, you start to hate being stagnant. Anytime that you're not growing starts to make you feel uncomfortable. So eventually the growth just becomes part of your lifestyle. Once you start getting in that rhythm of progress, you have to make it a standard. You have to standardize your current intensity, your current level of operation so that you don't dip back down, right? Once you get to this level, you don't want to drop back down. You want to make that a standard within your life. Let's say that your videos are consistently hitting 50K views. Instead of setting 50K views as a goal now, this should just be like a standard within your life. Every video should be hitting 50K views. Once your haircuts look certain quality, that's the standard of haircut that you give out every single time, right? And think about this. It's like if people's bank accounts, right? A lot of people, if their bank account gets too low, they lock in and then they have a lot of money saved and then they start blowing it again and they go back down, but they won't let themselves go below a certain amount of money in the bank. Or think about fitness. People won't let themselves get to a certain weight or a certain amount of like body fat percent or a certain like level of fat before they start locking in, because people don't want to let themselves go all the way. Keep consistency as a part of your identity. Don't say you're trying, oh, I'm trying to be more consistent. That's the biggest thing I hear people say. I'm trying to be more consistent. Just become the person that's consistent. Do the hard things, right? Keep promises to yourself, because that's the easiest way to boost your own confidence and your own ability and what you can do. Because you're going to start keeping more and more promises to yourself, and you're going to start realizing that every time you really put your mind something to it and write it down, give yourself a time frame, and you actually follow through, you start to realize how easy it is to achieve certain things when you're intentional. These are just some of my thoughts. Hopefully this was pretty valuable for you guys. Comment if you guys want to see more raw videos like this of just my unscripted thoughts.